Welcome back to the channel. We are doing another episode of Questionable Critic Reviews. I'm Super Expert. Let's talk about Ghostbusters. There's a new Ghostbusters coming out. As I'm sure you all know, Ghostbusters Afterlife looks like it's going to be pretty good. But first, in the meantime, let's talk about the 2016 one. I did not enjoy this film. Most audiences did not enjoy this film. Critics, however, somehow absolutely loved this film. I have a theory that is based on zero evidence that the critics were paid off, because these reviews come out before the movie's released and everyone was very upset about the trailer. I know we have all of our political differences these days, but at the time, 5 years ago, this was what split people. If you disliked the Ghostbusters 2016 trailer, or if you pledged you weren't going to see it, or whatever, this was the issue. So if you think whatever else is going on right now, just imagine that. So with that little bit of context, let's start with my nemesis. Not really, but he was in the last review. That's why I say that. Richard Trenholm from CNET.com. When I was about 6, I smashed my front tooth nose diving off a playground picnic bench while chasing a ghost. I was playing Ghostbusters. Obviously, I was obsessed with Ghostbusters and Transformers and Doctor Who and all sorts of stuff that I still love to this day. They've all now been revived, remade, and rebooted with varying results. Yeah, about that. How exactly are those other remakes doing? I don't know that the results are all that varying. When Doctor Who came back after 15 years away, I wasn't sure about the fast-paced and effervescent new version until I saw my nephew flip out for it. That's always how I determine if I like something too. If I know a little kid who likes it, that should be a useful reminder for those online multitudes inexplicably enraged by the prospect of Ghostbusters reboot that sometimes it's cool for other people to enjoy something, even if you're not keen on it. Similarly, I might point out, it's cool for other people to dislike something, even if you're not keen on it. So, is the new Ghostbusters any good? Yes. Some fans have already made their decision, but if you go into the movie with an open mind, this is one of the better remakes Hollywood has produced in recent years. Is it though? One of the better remakes? It's fun and funny, breezy and playful, and finds its own voice while staying respectful to the original.
And you were reluctant to be a part of any of them until you heard this idea. And why was this idea appealing to you?
It was only because I knew these girls were funny.
Sure, it's mostly chucklesome rather than laugh out loud, and it's nowhere near as quotable as the prototype. While the original Ghostbusters is a great comedy, Schindler's List it ain't, and treating it as some kind of sacred text is pretty laughable. Although, let's be honest, a Schindler's List remake would be pretty awesome. Schindler's List 2. Sequel, prequel, or remake. I'll go for any of them. This affectionate reinvention isn't going to make your copy of the original movie spontaneously combust any more than the past 30 years of lunchboxes, cartoon spin-offs, and spurious toys. And yeah, they all happen to be women. The new Ghostbusters doesn't so much as pass the Bechdel test, informal measure of how women are represented in fiction, as ace the Bechdel test. It should win a Bechdel prize for showing the rest of the world how it's done. It shouldn't be novel, but it is. Honestly, what I want to see at the end of every year, they have the Academy Awards, which honestly nobody watches. Let's replace that with Bechdel Awards. We'll just go through like all the movies that were created throughout the year and give Bechdel Awards. And honestly, I elect Richard Trenholm to be the judge, like the chief judge on this. Ghostbusters is fun and silly, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. Yeah, don't worry about that. We didn't go see it. A lot of these critics say that, and it didn't go so well. No need for mass hysteria. Well, Richard, thank you for your very detailed review. I do notice that this review is a little bit lacking in, talking about the actual movie, which is a little bit suspicious to me. You're using all these misdirects and references to other things. Usually it's better to talk about the movie that you're reviewing, but thank you. Oh man. I just remembered what the next one is. The next review is from Tim Martain at themercury.com. I never know where I should put the best ones, but this time I put it second. Tim Martain gave Ghostbusters 2016 5 out of 5, 100%, the highest score, the highest possible score he could give a movie. That's what he gave to Ghostbusters 2016. I hope everyone else watching this review, I hope we can all agree it doesn't deserve a 100%. Even if you love the movie, you can at least admit there are flaws. Okay. Initially, I was a bit baffled about why the new Ghostbusters movie was simply titled Ghostbusters instead of Ghostbusters 3. But very early in this new film, the reason for the reused title becomes clear. This is a reboot. Yeah, that was pretty obvious from the trailer. You probably should have realized that. And they absolutely nail it. This is a fresh start, an origin story, and everything about it works perfectly. And since I am a huge fan of the original movies, I do not give that assessment lightly. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure you don't. Just as the 1984 cast were all icons of the movie comedy in their era, so are these women, and the combination of profile and comedic skill is a winner. Yeah, you gotta love those fart and queef jokes. Just comedic skill. I particularly wanted to see more of Holtzman. She doesn't really say much, but every line is a gem. Her delivery is nutty comic genius, and her very presence on screen is always entertaining.
Is it more or less disgusting if I tell you it came from the front?
The script is also a great balance of forging ahead with a new story, as well as paying respects to the source material with callback after callback, and a whole lot of in-jokes. I think you mean references. They make a lot of references to the old film. Didn't really see any in-jokes, although, to be fair, I could be wrong. I wasn't paying attention that much in that movie. As much as the original was a product of its era, so is this. Making fun of hipsters, trashing those awful ghost hunting TV shows, and even referencing that current phenomenon of rock star septics. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Did you mean rock star skeptics? Because rock star septics doesn't sound too good. I don't know what that is. I don't want to know. Ghostbusters might be a reboot, but it also stands alone. You can safely watch this without ever having seen the other movies, and it will still make perfect sense and be great fun. But the first time you hear those proton packs power up is still a beautiful, nostalgic moment.
Enough, right?
She's doing a marvelous impression of a deflating balloon. We just gotta let her ride it out until she's out of juice.
Oh, he's corkscrewing me!
Happy, I'll make some adjustment.
It has even set itself up for a sequel or two, and I welcome them. I need to see more of this. And if this movie leads to a generation of young girls playing Ghostbusters in the playground the way we boys did in the 80s, it has done the world a huge favor. Is this movie for kids?
Is it more or less disgusting if I tell you it came from the front?
I think it was just made for adults. I don't know. That's just the kind of feeling I got. Gleefully, nutty, hilarious, perfect. Well done. Okay, so, wow, what a review. I just want to take a second. I'm going to pick on this guy a little more than the others because when you give a movie a perfect score, you better have some good justification. So thanks, Rotten Tomatoes, for keeping a nice little list of all the movies that all these critics review. Let's just take a look at some of the other scores he's given to other movies. Deadpool 2, another comedy, a good comparison, 4 out of 5. Avengers Infinity War, which, by the way, may I just say, that is my favorite Marvel movie of all time. I think that's as close to a superhero movie that is a masterpiece that you can get. They just balance all of the different storylines and characters so well. The stakes feel real, and it doesn't necessarily end on a good, perfect note. It just, to me, that was the ultimate. It's obviously, I mean, it's not a perfect movie. There's almost no perfect movies, but that's as close as you can get to a big blockbuster superhero movie. Anyway, he gave Avengers Infinity War a 3.5 out of 5. Ghostbusters, he gave 5 out of 5. Then we have Doctor Strange, which, this is really weird. I mean, Infinity War, 3.5. Doctor Strange, he gave 4.5 out of 5. So he liked Doctor Strange more than Infinity War. I don't know. I don't understand this guy. And then The Wolf of Wall Street, which was critically acclaimed and audiences loved it too. He gave a 4 out of 5. So still, The Wolf of Wall Street doesn't live up to Ghostbusters 2016. Also, Hunger Games, 4.5 out of 5. 21 Jump Street, another comedy, 4 out of 5. Still not up to Ghostbusters standards. And the last one is Real Steel. I just wanted to bring this up. Real Steel, I really liked a lot. I think most people thought it was like mediocre. It's a movie from 2011, 10 years ago. It doesn't feel like that movie came out 10 years ago. If you haven't seen Real Steel, I think it's a cool movie, but he gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Still not up to Ghostbusters standard. I'm really interested to see what these critics say about the new Ghostbusters coming out. All right, next up we have Megan Garber from The Atlantic. Ghostbusters has a long history of getting the reboot. The original film, the quirkily creative summer blockbuster of 1984, has been made over the decades into an aggressively mediocre sequel and an aggressively mediocre cartoon and an aggressively mediocre sequel to the aggressively mediocre cartoon, and also comic books, video games, a theme park attraction, etc. That's kind of the problem with all these like reboots and sequels and stuff, is a lot of them are just mediocre, trying to play off of the success of the first one. Just by the way, I think that's where a lot of this frustration from people seeing the trailer and the movie comes from. It's just, we see reboot after reboot and sequel after sequel that either doesn't pay respects to the original or is obviously just an attempt by a corporation to make some more money off of something else that already exists. The newest Ghostbusters, however, might be the most notable in its unique ability to have, long before its trailer appeared and even longer before the film premiered in theaters, really pissed people off. The newest iteration would be indignant fans of the original scoffed at a straight reboot, not a sequel, and thus might pose a threat to the Ghostbusters canon. For another thing, they scoffed some more. The eponymous Spectre Slayers would this time around be ladies, which probably meant that the beloved franchise would be converted into Sex and the City with slime. I truly believe the anger and frustration actually comes from cynical corporations trying to cater to nostalgia bait so hard they are digging up every franchise out of their graves that they can, and people are tired of it. I didn't actually think of the Sex and the City comparison, but that's a good criticism, I guess. Trolls, anger, hype, backlash, critics declaring their plans to boycott the film, a campaign to make the film's trailer the most disliked YouTube video of all time. Soon, the new Ghostbusters was so freighted with the concerns of a shape-shifting culture that the movie's quality as a film and as a piece of summer entertainment became at once beside the point and the only thing that mattered. For a moment, it seemed the future of women in Hollywood and the future of feminism itself would be riding on the shoulders of Paul Feig, Ivan Reitman, Melissa McCarthy, and some CGI'd ghosts. Yeah, you guys think the country getting split over vaccines is bad. She's not even exaggerating. Like, back then, it really did feel like that. Like, especially coming from the other side, because I didn't like the movie, I almost felt like anybody who spoke out would just get labeled as a woman hater, basically. It's a weird time, man. It's just it's a dumb movie with ghosts, like in a horrible comedy. I mean, the things we make our tribes around, right? The new Ghostbusters is good. It is actually pretty great. It's funny and nuanced in its funniness. Nuanced. And so Ghostbusters, true to Feigian form, unapologetically combines ghosts and guns and gags and girl power. There are Abbott and Costello-y bit set pieces about a dog named Mike Cat. Mike Cat. I got it. Yeah, that was a good one. That had me That had me rolling on the floor. And Adam Sandler-y jokes about farts. Yeah, that keeps getting mentioned. We love those. So good. And delightfully Seinfeldian riffs. That is an insult to Seinfeld, honestly. I don't even know what they're talking about there. There was no reference to Seinfeld that I could see. I'm a big fan of that show, by the way. That's a great show. Callbacks to the original Ghostbusters fondness for Chinese food on the proper ratio of liquid to dumpling in wonton soup. Yeah, wasn't aware that was something in the previous movie, but put in the comments below if you realized that was a reference. Did you think it was funny? Maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know. Like its predecessor, future generations will likely deem it both prescient and regressive, and in pretty much equal measure. A ghost is something that hovers and haunts, stuck in the awkward space between the past and the future. So for better or for worse, our movies. Can we just, instead of focusing on how this will be viewed by future generations, blah, 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 all this stuff, just get rid of it all. Is it a funny movie? Is it an entertaining movie? Should I go see it? Should you go see it? That's what we want to know. That's critics. Listen, what we want to see on your review is it worth spending my time and money to go see this film? When you talk about this stuff, it just makes, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but it just makes me go, too much trouble. I don't care. Too much trouble. Next, we have Julia Alexander from Polygon.com. Paul Feig's Ghostbusters is a movie that embraces every silly aspect surrounding it. Ghostbusters is far from a perfect film, but it's full of hysterical moments and goofy scenarios that makes it one of the most fun movies of the summer so far. There are slight pacing issues with the movie, which lead to moments of brief boredom, and that comes as a result of trying to turn the comedy into an action film. The actual ghost-busting scenes can feel pretty tedious. Okay, this is a positive review? I did look up only positive reviews when I was doing this, so this was a positive review. But that moment of weariness is alleviated when Feig decides to refocus on the comedy. That's the other thing about Ghostbusters. It's a comedy through and through. The least interesting thing about Feig's version of the movie was also the least interesting thing about Wrightsman, the ghosts. When Feig decides to spend his time on the paranormal hunting aspects of the film, it loses some of its magic. The scenes are big, loud, and intense, and much to the cast's credit, they do a good job of trying to keep the comedic aspects alive while fighting off ghosts. But even then it feels lackluster. Feig tries to transition seamlessly from goofy comedy to sci-fi action, but never quite succeeds. Apparently this was a positive review. I don't know what happened with this one. Even the film's climactic, all-out battle between ghosts and busters feels tedious. It's a little too long, and you spend most of the time wishing it was over so that the cast could get back to bantering. It's a necessary scene considering the entire premise of the film, but there's nothing particularly interesting about it. And when juxtaposed to the less intense parts of the movie, it doesn't feel like it fits well either. Okay. I'm not going to read any more of this because, these are things that I agree with, but, overall it's a good critic review, but this also makes me question the Rotten Tomatoes score even more because this, if you just click on, maybe there's others out there, maybe there's other reviews that they label as positive and certified fresh, but this is a negative review. Next, we have Madeline Davies at Jezebel.com. First, she begins with a complaint about Independence Day resurgence, which I actually haven't seen still to this day. I don't really plan on seeing it. Wasn't that interested. I don't know. It's hard to find time to watch all these frickin' movies. I'm careful about how I use my time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? This is important stuff. The action sequences are gripping, a supernova of star-worthy charisma. Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, and Kristen Wiig have palpable chemistry and clearly have a blast working together. Chris Hemsworth makes a surprisingly hilarious turn as the Ghostbusters' new secretary, Kevin, and the villain, Neil Casey, is, get this, the same type of pathetic dude who's probably spending his workday sabotaging Ghostbusters' ranking on IMDb right now. Got him! I wonder if these people think that all these negative reviews really are, like, I can't figure out if there are these people who really genuinely enjoyed the movie and just think, like, how could someone possibly not like this? There's just no way you couldn't like this movie. It's just got to be all these trolls. This movie was excellent. Or if it's like these reviews came out before the movie was released, and they're trying to get people hyped up. They're trying to make the movie succeed because they want to see more of this stuff. They like it. They want to see more of this. Or they're literally just paid off. I'm sure it's like a combination of all these, but some critics have got to be paid off. I mean, there's just no way. And then there's some manipulation going on with Rotten Tomatoes. It just doesn't make sense to me. These scores don't make sense to me. I was looking forward to going into Ghostbusters and reviewing it as an action comedy, not an action comedy starring women. But midway through, I discovered this was impossible. You can't escape the fact that these are female Ghostbusters because the filmmakers and its cast don't want you to escape it. The jokes are decidedly silly from a woman's point of view. Queef jokes are the new fart jokes. Man, they keep bringing this up. I mean... We don't need more fart and queef jokes, please. They're not that funny. There's a scene midway through the movie where Wig's character Erin reads sexist comments from her YouTube channel. Ain't no women gonna catch no ghosts. This is the point right here. There's some sexist comment they bring up, and there's no joke. That's just it. They just reference the comment. Why? Later, Leslie Jones' Patty dropped the crowd surfing complaint.
Okay, so I don't know if it was a race thing or a lady thing, but I'm mad as hell.
Even in their fictional world, these Ghostbusters are facing sexism, and thankfully, they're ready for the fight. Watching Ghostbusters and comparing it to Resurgence made it all the more clear that those up in arms about the former aren't mad at a place from nostalgia. They're mad from a place of misogyny. Assuming that the 80s and 90s were the true salad days of action movies, I can easily say that the new Ghostbusters, without a doubt, further succeeds in capturing that vintage spirit. The only difference between now and then is that the modern version contains jokes for and by women. If you can't see that this is a good thing, then I don't know, my dude. Enjoy your summer of terrible Independence Day installments. Once again, it's the same argument. If you don't like it, don't see it. Well, that's what people did. Again, I didn't go see Independence Day Resurgence, but if you keep telling people, if you don't like it, don't see it. If you don't like it, don't see it. They're not going to go see it. Most people don't appreciate being shamed into liking a movie, let alone seeing the movie. Just my opinion. All right. I recorded this whole thing, and all this negativity I was hoping to make a more funny review. You know, I just want to make people laugh and, you know, look at these ridiculous reviews with me. I love going through this stuff. It's really fun. But, you know, I really want to end on a funny note. I've been preparing a joke for a little while. I've thought about it, and I think, you know, I was going to save it for a different video, like one that I'm really feeling down, but this one's pretty down. So this is just in the spirit of Ghostbusters 2016. Okay, let's see if I can do this.